We've got a sort of debate or conversation, whatever you want to call it, between Mehdi Hasan and Benny Morris over Israel's genocide in Gaza, with a panel of professionals who were there to give insights and pitch in occasionally as well. So I thought it would be very insightful to go over on the channel and help shed some light on the ongoing crisis.
Genocide it definitely isn't. The aim here is not to kill as many Palestinians.
That's not the definition of genocide.
It's one of the
you wrote a book on genocide. That's not the definition of genocide.
It's one of the definitions.
It's not.
Try and kill.
It's not based on numbers, the definition
It's also based on intent and on numbers.
It's based on the intent.
Yes.
To destroy, to kill in whole or in part.
There's no intent here.
That's as far as I know. Intent.
I'm not.
I just want to
I'm not a government spokesman. You seem to be presenting me as a government spokesman.
How did I present you in a government spokesman? I asked you for your view on the war. I didn't say anything. We'll come to the government. I'm just asking about your view right now. The definition of genocide, you wrote a book on it, is nothing to do with how many people you kill. So it's not a numbers game.
It's also a numbers game.
To be clear, it's absolutely not a numbers game. Like, that has nothing to do with it. It's about intent. Genocide is defined in the Genocide Convention, has been since 1948, of which Israel adheres to as well, by the way. And it's the following 5 acts where if any one alone, just one, is committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part the national, racial, or ethnic group, with the 5 being killing members of the group, causing seriously bodily harm or mental harm, deliberately inflicting conditions on the group meant to bring its destruction, imposing measures to prevent births, or forcibly transferring children to another group. And with over 40,000 dead confirmed Palestinians, a number that's likely to be closer to 180,000 if you add the unconfirmed deaths as well, the wide-ranging food insecurity and famine, over half the population having PTSD symptoms, being forced to survive on 250 calories a day, which is less than a can of beans, which is less than 12% of the average daily needed, the destruction of every single hospital in Gaza, the destruction of medical equipment where doctors cannot perform even the most basic of duties, and people are dying from conditions that should be fixable, the bombing of safe zones, the direction of Palestinian civilians to these safe zones and then bombing them, bombing of refugee camps, the war crimes on civilians. It's pretty clear that Israel fits both the intent and the description of at least 4 of these, where again, only one is needed.
If there was a genocidal intent in the war making in Gaza, there would be not 30,000 or... Incidentally, the numbers are all issued by Hamas. We don't know how true they are. But if there was genocidal intent by the Israeli government with the Israeli military machine to commit genocide in Gaza, there would not be 30,000 or 20,000 Gazans dead. There would be hundreds of thousands of Gazans dead.
I'm sure.
That is called genocide, and that's not what's happening in Gaza.
Benny, we've already discussed that's not the definition of genocide. But okay, let me ask you this.
That's not your definition.
No, it's the 1948 Genocide Convention.
There's lots of different.
Forget it. Forget the 1948 Genocide Convention.
There are lots of definitions.
That's not true, Benny. There's only one. There's only one. It's the 1948 Genocide Convention.
That sounds dogmatic. There's only one. There's only one truth, the Hamas truth. Sound the same.
Is the 1948 Genocide Convention a Hamas charter? Is everything Hamas, Benny?
If there's a genocidal side in this battle, it is the Hamas.
Okay. This is not a defense. It's also it's just disgusting. Saying it can't be genocide because it could be worse. That's like killing someone cold blood and then saying it's not murder because I could have killed 2 people. And anyways, we know from Lancet reporting, it's plausible that as many as 186,000 could be dead, which would be around 10% of the population in Gaza. The population, by the way, that is mainly women, children, and elderly people. And if he's claiming that Hamas is genocidal for killing 1,200 Israelis, around 750 of those being civilians, and a small chunk of that likely being killed by the IDF, who it's confirmed used the Hannibal Directive on that day. But let's just concede all of that and say all 1,200 were civilians and all 1,200 were killed by Hamas. If that's genocidal, then killing over 35 times that has to be genocidal. This kind of bloodthirsty argumentation line really just makes absolutely no sense.
You've said what many would say are racist things about Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims. You've called them barbarians. You've said they have no moral inhibitions. You've said they ought to be caged. You've said Palestinian citizens of Israel are a time bomb, a fifth column, the emissary of the enemy.
I got the gist.
I know, but the audience need to hear it.
Okay.
You say you're a liberal and you believe in the peace process. A lot of Palestinians would say, how do we make peace with people who say they're liberal Zionists and they think of us in this way?
It's quite a question of quoting out of context, which you are indulging in. Those who blew up buses and restaurants in Israel during the Second Intifada, I'm talking about both Hamas and Fatah terrorists, I called barbarians, and they behaved.
Not just them.
And I did no. I called them barbarians, and they behaved like barbarians.
You didn't call all
and
Arabs barbarians?
No, I didn't.
You did actually in 2004 in Haaretz. You said the Arab world as it is today is barbarian.
That's true.
And there it is. The game is given away. It always boils down to just blatant racism and age-old hatred, believing that Palestinians are less than and thus they need to be dominated. They can live, but it has to be with the Israeli boot on their neck in complete control. And if they so much as make a peep, we will just wipe out chunks of their population because Israel is the one with all the power. Those who have labeled others barbarians through history, I can assure you, are the bad guys in the story. And Israel loses its ability to say, we're the civilized victims when they're blowing up children, raping hostages, sexually assaulting women, and killing civilians, as far as shooting civilians who have white flags in their hands, waving them while they come out and walk through the street.
You just recently wrote a Haaretz column in June where you said Israel should consider nuking Iran to prevent them from acquiring nuclear weapons. Not even Benjamin Netanyahu has said that. You've said it.
Well, he's more responsible. He's a prime minister.
So you're irresponsible.
Yes.
I mean, nuking an entire country.
That is not what's written in the article. You misquote everything you say.
I asked
Almost
you a question.
everything you say.
It was a question.
Okay, I'll say what the context is.
Please.
Is destroying the Iranian nuclear facilities. That's the context.
With nukes?
Yes, with nukes, but not destroying Iran, as you just said, I said.
You think dropping a nuke on Iran would have limited...
Not on Iran. Small nuclear bombs can destroy facilities like Natanz, and you know that.
And you...
It's not to do
I mean,
with,
you've been advocating this for 15 years, right?
No, right, of course. He just means the baby nukes that wouldn't destroy the country. How dare Mehdi take his quote out of context, that he only wants to destroy the facilities with the nuke, not the city, not the country, not civilians. And Israel has nukes too. I wonder what he would say about somebody saying that Israel should be nuked. It's all about this imbalance that is felt on the ground, where Israel at this point is probably scared to be treated or subjected to the same kind of living that they forced upon Palestinians for decades now. And they'll do anything to not have to relinquish that power. But the bloodthirst, the sheer want for destruction and calling for the death of innocent civilians is appalling.